there's a lot of Luka slander on NBA Twitter right now. The discourse bubble is doing a lot of reevaluation, I think, of Luka's strengths and weaknesses. If you can win with him, is he Harden? This is probably coming off of the heels of him being fat last year and all that discourse about him not being what he once was. Did Nico Harrison make a smart decision selling off him when he did? That's kind of been in the air a lot, right? Saw this tweet. Said, not gonna lie, the Luka career reevaluation and overreaction is all due to SGA's rise. It's sad, but you never really see superstars get lapped this badly. SGA is so much better than Luka that people are asking why Luka hasn't done more. The truth is that nothing has changed with Luka.
Okay, he said lapped this badly. That's where he lost me. Luka just went to the finals the year prior. Luka just beat OKC the year prior in like 6 games, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, see, I feel like that
lapped is crazy.
That's overstated. But yeah, that is a good point. So that's the argument everybody in the comments is talking about. Is the gap, how big do you think that gap is? And I guess I brought this up to say, this, maybe he's being dramatic, right? And maybe obviously Luka is still a tier 1 player. I think it's pretty easy to say you'd rather have SGA for certain reasons linked to play style. And it is also interesting that I think he's right that Luka is getting slandered because of SGA. If SGA wasn't doing this and didn't become one of the best players in the world, winning a championship as a guard, I don't think we'd see nearly as much Luka slander. I think we'd probably give Luka way more of a pass for last year.
Okay, probably. I think like with Luka, honestly, I do think it's. I think the biggest thing is not even like the chip. I think the biggest thing is the lack of MVP.
That doesn't help either.
I think that's the biggest one because obviously you get into playoff scenarios and playoff situations, and you can have series like a PJ Washington going crazy. Or you can have these really weird things that happen for 7 games that kind of put your team over the edge. The regular season is, okay, you're that guy. Let's go out and see you do it. And so for somebody who's been first team all NBA since his second season and who is racking up all of these other accolades, why don't you have the MVP when you are putting up these numbers and you have never done it for an entire year?
Very true.
And so I think from that perspective, I can see where you look at Luka and say like, yeah, he's getting lapped
100%.
because SGA actually has done it, and we've been waiting for you to do it, and you still haven't done it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're describing the exact. I think you're taking the other view of it from me by minimizing it, where I think that's like a very real psychological thing. Is that I think the people that see lapped and they take exception to it, like a Luka fan will say like, dude, what are you talking about? They're still peers. I think Luka's even better actually because of X, Y, Z.
Well,
I think that's probably tied to people having the early perception that when they came into the league and the first however many years of their career, Luka was better. Luka's in a different tier. This is not a conversation. He's one of the best players of all time at 21. Shai is an interesting player getting compared to De'Aaron Fox, getting compared to Darius Garland. So now that Shai has kind of catapulted that conversation and been moved up to his peer to even better and more accomplished, a lot of people are going to continue to feel like that's just us overrating SGA.
Yeah, the distance traveled is bigger for SGA than it was for Luka.
And that creates a psychological divide that some people are probably holding on too hard to Luka being better, and then some people maybe are doing what this tweet is talking about and considering Shai to shit on Luka's whole reputation and make Luka irrelevant, make him Harden V2, etc.
Yeah, I agree. And what's interesting about this storyline, and I'm very much interested in seeing how these two just continue to. I don't know what Luka's going to do for the rest of his career, but just seeing SGA's continued ascension is so interesting. Considering how, going back to what you said, like we've been wanting to crown Luka Doncic as MVP. At least I feel like over the last 3 years, one of us has consistently said Luka's going to win MVP this year. The media, everyone on media always wanted to happen. For it to not happen, and Luka just going from, I don't know, Darius Garland's, the Melo Ball, Trae Young conversations. When we first started this show, back in 2022 or so, none of us would have taken Trae as a player or would have taken SGA over Trae at all. We wouldn't have foreseen that coming, especially coming off the run that Trae had. And to see SGA just constantly break barriers that no one thought was possible. And meanwhile, Luka's over here just making first team All NBAs consistently since his second year in the league. I understand what he means. The gap, you're right, the gap is bigger.
Yeah, and this follow-up tweet is another good point in this thought process. Again, whether or not it's true or not, but this is a good viewpoint of that. Luka is who he's always been, which is a top 30 all-time guy. Agreed. SGA is a top 5 type of guy, which is probably doing a little too much glaze. But the general point is that Luka didn't get worse. Luka still is one of the 30 best players of all time. If he never wins a ring, he's Charles Barkley with better production. He might be in that convo as one of the best players never win a ring, right? In terms of individual talents. Shai is putting together a resume that if he continues on this level, continues at this rate with his team success, he might be aiming higher. Like he's on a very similar career trajectory of Steph Curry. Whether or not you think he's as good as him individually, not here to argue that. But in terms of slow start into dominant team, into MVP seasons and finals MVP, etc. That's the path he's on. That's why people are viewing him as like a different tier of Shai. I mean, a different tier of Luka potentially.
It's also hard for Luka because he is the like James Harden successor of play type. You inherently have this play type that historically we haven't seen win, and because of James Harden's shortcomings and like his specific failings, now people kind of put that on Luka when it's like, actually, James Harden is just one of the biggest playoff droppers that we've ever seen, and that's not necessarily Luka or and like his play style. So you have this bias against the way that Luka plays. You also have this Brian Windhorst moment of you're losing the finals that you probably were going to lose anyways, but you have this moment of Brian Windhorst being like, you suck at defense. You're the reason why your team is losing, and so when you get beat in 5 games, everything comes crashing down on Luka because he's the one who's out of shape. He's the one who can't play defense. He's the one that's letting his team down, as opposed to Kyrie also not being ready for the moment. The rest of the team just also being overmatched by the Celtics. So until Luka gets an MVP or a title, I do think that his chain are like people are going to look at him and it's not going to be like one, but it's going to be like multiple of his chains being snatched.
Yeah. You made a good point just now that I think ties back to my actual opinions on this conversation. You said that people tie him to Harden for playstyle reasons, which I think is fair, but Harden gets that negative stink because the playoff dropping. And someone in the chat said Luka is Harden without the playoff dropping. And I think that's pretty much true. I think he is a better version of Harden potentially because he is good in the playoffs in ways that Harden never was, because he has the in-between game as a scorer that Harden never had, but he does have a lot of the same drawbacks. You know, the defense actually has been pretty decent this year, but is always going to cap out at decent. The scoring aggression and the sometimes like tunnel vision that can hurt him as his play style is always going to be a thing. The lack of transition, being a higher turnover prone player than Shai, etc. He's always going to have similar downsides to Harden, but obviously the strengths way outweigh that. Whereas I think SGA is like more similar to the greatest guards of all time, like a Kobe in play style, that I think I'd probably prefer SGA because I think his warts are a little bit less.
They stand out less. You're
like he doesn't have quite as many downsides. Or maybe you feel like in terms of checking different skills that Luka can do more things at a higher level, pretty much the passing. I think that SGA's lack of downside probably makes him a little bit better of a player, probably a little more conducive to team success for years to come. That I think I do nod Shai as like lapping him in terms of who I think is better, but it's not some historic golf or anything. Yeah,
it also is, and because somebody has said it earlier, was like, if you put Luka on the Thunder right now, where do you think that he is? And like, I don't know if it would go as smoothly. Like, I don't know if they're on pace to win 73 games or whatever it is, but they would also be title contenders.
Yeah, they win championships.
Right, yeah, like that team would still be one of considered like one of the better teams of whatever like weird era that we're in the NBA. And you saw for half a year when you gave Luka actual defenders and you gave him another guard, they got to the finals and they were able to go on this run. So he does have to capitalize on everything, and he better hope that the Lakers, who are now breaded, right?
Yeah,
are Austin Reeves. You get to stay here. You have your running mate, and you can build this team around those two and actually get a title contender.
Someone said SGA is more MJ than Kobe. Come on, y'all are being too calm with this. Yeah, Loki.
Oh my gosh.
Loki. I mean, yeah, Loki. You're kind of right. Yeah. And I think some people in the chat said the Thunder would 3P with Luka.
What does that mean though? Like
be more MJ than Kobe.
I guess we're just raising the bar and sealing an expectation for him and just how good he is.
Efficiency is one thing. Relative error, he's a more efficient scorer. I think a lot of people that's what people mean when they say that. I think and team success as the best player, like potentially going to do a 3P without a Shaq is like what people mean. And general style of play, he's a little bit more. This is probably relative to era though. This is probably because this way because Kobe played in the 2000s, but I think they mean he's a little more of a slasher and a little more of a just better version of that. Isn't so tough jumper reliant, I guess. But a lot of that convo was just relative to era. I think that Kobe had to play the way because of 2000s.
Yeah, because obviously, like y'all know how I feel about Kobe, but like even that in the second half of it, they went to 3 straight finals.
Yeah.
Right. And they went back to back and they did all of those things. So I think even whenever you say like he's more MJ than Kobe, obviously Kobe, like if you say that, then you genuinely are saying that Shai's going to be top 5 all time. Yeah. And like, if you feel that way, then okay, fine. You feel that way. I just don't know. I I don't think that that's true right now. Obviously.
I think
he's very much on the way to being that.
to top 5.
Well,
Like,
the thing is, he's not going to rack it up accolades. He didn't like Magic won a fucking Finals MVP when he was a rookie. Or actually, not, he won a Finals. I don't remember if he's MVP, but they got to start winning right away.
mm-hmm.
He's 27, about to win his second title. Like he's probably too old to rack up as many to be top 5. But top 5 peak, especially like among guards, is it possible that he works his way into being a better peak than Kobe when people talk about it 10 years from now? Probably. Possible? Probably. I don't know if we'll do it, but it's in the conversation.
Yeah, we'll see at the end of this year, because I do think a back-to-back now where like if he has one of those things where he, again, like if he completes what Steph couldn't in 15 and 16, and you have the back-to-back MVPs, you have the record-setting season, you have back-to-back titles, that would have put Steph in, especially at that time, it would have legitimized any conversation of Steph being better than Bron. And you could have legitimately said, okay, Steph is better because I've beaten you 2 years in a row in the finals. I've done all these things. And so obviously we all think that it's going to happen. And so we just kind of have to like sit here and wait. Mm-hmm. But if it does happen, then I'm okay with doing that. I think even right now, I'm still like a little like, all right, let's wait and like, let's see them do it, because I was so sure that Golden State was going to do it. They're up 3-1 in the finals, and then for them to blow it, that's different.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We also have to wait to see how this regular season ends. If the season ended today, Shai is having a season on par with 2016 Curry. He is also averaging over 30 on 70% true shooting for a guard, which is astronomically ridiculous, while averaging one of the least turnover percentage of any high usage guard. Like, he is having one of those all-time great seasons that will be in the pantheon of best single seasons for a guard in NBA history. So that'll be another nod too, right? That he got an MVP, came back and had an even better MVP. While presumably, if he wins a title again, it'll probably be a more impressive title, because last time they got pushed to 7 in the finals. That's like, just in terms of final outcome, the least impressive title you could have when it took the most amount of games possible. I imagine it won't be quite as much of a hellscape in the finals this year if they make it back. So there's a lot of ways we can imagine that 6-7 months from now, the conversations are like, oh yeah, this is one of the best of all time.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we definitely have to see. As for Luka, listen, man, you got to lock in. Like you really do have to lock in and beat the Death Star in order to get your. It's
Chat,
like
it's hard.
I hate you.
I knew as soon as you said it.
I know.
Me too.
Yeah, I feel like Luka at this point in time has no more. It's so hard. Like how bulletproof Shai's case is, at least ascending all time and just constantly leaping Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer, GOAT after GOAT, is tough, because I feel like you only have a certain amount of blips and like gashes left on your resume. Luka already has that with what he did in the finals two years ago, being a cone, the out of shape stuff and all that. Like, that's terrible, And for someone like Shai, he has yet to have anything on his resume to make you raise an eyebrow just yet. If anything, people years ago, the only thing people were clamoring Shai about, and it's like fake conversations too, is when OKC was shamelessly tanking, when they were like fully relying on Josh Giddey and Aaron Wiggins at the beginning of their tank, and they're like, yo, bro, you got this. Shai's gonna go ahead and request a trade if OKC's this type of ass, bro, and all that. Like, he's done nothing to really sail the conversation.
And that's a big part of the hate for him, I think, is like, he doesn't really have any. It's no real reason to hate outside of I don't like him. He's a free throw merchant. He's not fun. Like, imagine think back to all the convos for all the best players in the world over our years as NBA fans. People would point to LeBron, say, you choked in the finals, you can't shoot. Curry, you can't play defense, you don't have finals MVPs. There's always something people latch onto and like probably blow out of proportion, but they find a legitimate criticism. Now that Jokic can't play defense, Curry, Luka, everything we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's not a single thing to point to for Shai outside of, I just don't like him.
And at a certain point in time, it happens to every single GOAT. It's just the nature of fucking life. Something's going to happen, and I wonder what it's going to be and when it's going to happen.
Or if it does happen, because that's kind of the point now, is that like, maybe it just doesn't happen.
That's impossible. Every player has their shit.
Sure, and maybe he'll lose a finals eventually, and he won't shoot amazing. But like, in terms of like big picture blips that you actually point to as hurting a legacy, he might just be maybe he has a lower ceiling than the best players of all time do. Like, he's never going to be 0-1 Shaq in terms of sheer individual one season dominance. But maybe he has less downsides than every other legend. And maybe that's going to be his case for being top 15 all time, is that he just never hurts you in ways that Luka does.
What's probably going to happen, the most realistic path to getting that slander is somebody gets hurt in the playoffs. Either J-Dub or Chet gets hurt in the playoffs, and the Thunder lose whatever series that they're in.
I could see that.
And then people
That'll
say,
certainly happen at some point.
right? And then you would go to Shai and say, you're supposed to be X, Y, and Z. You can't win a second round series without so and so. Like that's gonna listen. I know these conversations very well. Like that's gonna be the way in to get at Shai if you really really hate him.
Yeah,
That's low too.
and yeah, it's so funny. The chat is always like, there's always Luka fans that are going to be like, if he had that Thunder team, they'd 4-peat. And then Thunder fans are going to be like, shit, Luka couldn't even win a championship with this team. Neither one of those are true, I think. I think that they would still win championships, they'd still be amazing, but they probably wouldn't have the year-by-year consistency to be able to do better than they do with Shai.
Yeah.
And no, the general, like, we're saying all these things about different viewpoints. If Luka is Harden and Shai is MJ, both of which in terms of play style, not abilities, take away playoffs and pretend you don't even know what happens in the playoffs. You don't know anything about championships, anything about accolades. Look at regular season MJ, regular season Harden. You'd pick MJ for style of play reasons, right? Like a small difference. Again, if you didn't have any rings or anything, there'd be a small difference in style of play that you'd prefer MJ. That's kind of the convo to me, is that these small differences in how I wanted to play my stars is the only difference to me.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, what that conversation, the baseline of that conversation is just like, who will give us less variance? Who will be more stable?
Yes.
And by nature, SGA's game, which is just more so like black and white, simple as hell, get into the paint, being the greatest mid-range shooter of all time, being impossible to guard when his fucking head is down because of all the insane angles that he takes versus just tough step back three, relying on your teammates and hitting them on wide open corners is great and all that, but it's just so much more variance with that style.
Yeah, low variance is the exact way to finalize the convo. Is he just simply has the least variance of any of his peers.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ive Avocado for tipping $15. Appreciate you. Shout out to Fergus McKay for tipping $3. He said, last TD3 live before the social media ban in my country, I'ma miss the crown eating. What country is banning social media? I didn't even know about that.
What?
Get on that VPN, brother.
I don't even, that's happening? I had no idea. I live in Iraq.
Break the law to watch our streams.
That's crazy.
Risk federal prison to watch our streams. I promise you it's worth it.